I got this book from DC. My brother went ahead and got it for me. General Chemistry by Linus. Look how big that sucker is. Incredible. Copyright 1947, 1950, and 1970. So essentially the most up-to-date version of this book was written 45 years ago. So it's essentially a time capsule, if you will. A history book. But that's okay because a lot of the theories in here are still applicable, and a large goal for anybody who was up to the challenge is to find where everything is wrong in this book. Because, as anybody knows, scientific theory sometimes can get replaced. And it's quite unusual to see the type of writing I'm about to present to you, because most scientists, they want you to believe it. This is how everything works, this is how we do things, yada yada yada. But Linus Pauling is apparently a man who has his head screwed onto his shoulders very tightly. This is one sharp fellow here, because I noticed it right off the bat when I read this little passage I'm going to read to you. It's on page 14, The Nature and Properties of Matter. It goes from page 14 to page 15. I'll read it for you. The application of the scientific method does not consist solely of the routine use of logical rules and procedures, meaning, the scientific method. Often, a generalization that encompasses many facts has escaped notice until a scientist with unusual insight has discovered it. Intuition and imagination play an important part in the scientific method. I'll go ahead and read that out aloud for you again, just so, let it sink in. The application of the scientific method does not consist solely of the routine use of logical rules and procedures. Often a generalization that encompasses many facts has escaped notice until a scientist with unusual insight has discovered it. Intuition and imagination play an important part in the scientific method. Holy cow, people. So, the myth, I should say, of science being a strict rule of logical rules and procedures only is missing an important part. So when you go online and you see a lot of what I would like to call pseudo-skeptics, people who are skeptical of everything else that isn't a part of their little groupthink type mentality, you can go ahead and get this book and show them that Linus Pauling, a chemistry expert, who actually, I think this guy is also a Nobel laureate or something like that, says otherwise. So essentially, I'm really not alone in this. This is actually known for a while. In 1970, 45 years ago, people have known imagination and intuition are important in the scientific method. Since when do we just throw that out the window? What are we discovering if it isn't us allowing ourselves to see outside the box, to be imaginative and intuitive concerning nature? He's essentially saying you have to think. Thinking is required in the scientific method. But this book is excellent. I think there's so much to learn in this book that it's going to keep me occupied for a while, being that I don't have the time to take in-class college classes and to get the degree and spend thousands and thousands of dollars. I essentially have to self-teach myself. I have to teach myself this stuff in my spare time outside of work. And I have to apply all of these ideas into a cohesive theory of stellar evolution. Chemistry is the bread and butter of stellar evolution. One thing I noticed as well that actually dates this book is I looked over the nature of properties of matter, chapter 1. Obviously, it goes over mass and energy, the international system of units, kinds of matter, materials, the temperature scale, substances, kinds of definitions, mixtures and solutions. That's all good. And then it goes over phases, solid phase, liquid phase, gaseous phase. Well, I know there are different types of phases that are intermediate between those. Like, what would be, I can't think of them right now. It's too early in the morning. But anyways, I looked up that, and I looked up plasma in the back, and I don't see it. He talks a lot about ionized material and electron flow through a vacuum chamber and a lot of that. But somehow the concept of matter being in a completely distinct phase called plasma is a bit disappointing, which essentially means that this book actually dates itself, because if we're going to explain star evolution in terms of chemistry, we can't ignore the role and the functions of plasmatic material as it phase transitions to gaseous material. As well, it would also immediately date the people who are inside of establishment and institutions who were getting their degrees in the 1970s and 1960s. The bosses, the big guys, the people who determine who gets the funding, who gets to publish the papers, and that kind of stuff. Those people, well, you will be entering their minds by reading that book, by understanding what they think they know, absent current understanding of nature and modern discoveries. And modern discoveries meaning discoveries that happen in the past the year 2000. So, we have 15 years after 2000, and the discovery I made was made in 2011. So there's a lot of catching up that those people have to do, and this basically will allow me to put my mind inside of their mind to see where they're at, to see where all the mistakes are in light of the theory of stellar evolution that I have discovered. That the star is the young planet and the planet is the ancient star. They're not mutually exclusive at all. So, essentially, reverse engineering the Earth, including all phases of matter, including plasma and gas, will be one hell of a task. But I do believe with this discovery, I'll be able to discover other processes that happen as the star evolved which have not yet been discovered. And I obviously plan on writing all those down and keeping my listeners and audience informed as I move along this self-education route that I think is the best option for me. Sitting down in a classroom getting lectured at isn't exactly my idea of an education, if you will. Today is May 18th, 2015. Alright, everybody have a good day.